So we have with us Saurabh Swamiji also now. Saurabh, would you like to, can I introduce you now? Is this time, is it okay? Because you have to go then.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because you said you have to leave. So I saw the time.
You were just saying that you will have one session, so I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
so is it all right if it is till
Yes.
4:10? Okay, so please listen to this session because it's going to be very engaging. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So we have our first panel discussion now, which will be moderated by Sumaya Yasmin. Sumaya is the managing editor of Education World, and she has been instrumental in all the education reforms which are coming and taking place. She's editor with Education World, Parent World, and right now moderating this session with all the other panelists. Over to you, Sumaya.
Thank you, Sapna. And I must congratulate Mr. Neeraj Thangi for making an excellent speech, and particularly talking about the importance of women's education.
Girl child.
Thank you,
Girl
sir.
Child.
So our first panel discussion is valuable pandemic lessons for Indian education. Without any further delay, let me introduce our panelists. We are joined by some very well-known education leaders of Rajasthan, among them Mr. Damodar Prasad Goyal. Mr. Goyal is a commerce graduate at Rajasthan University. He is the founder president of the Society for Unaided Private Schools of Rajasthan. Under his leadership, the society challenged Section 12(1)(c) of the RT Act in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court partially upheld his petition. Goyal is also management consultant to a large number of private schools across the country. Mr. Goyal, always a pleasure to have you with us. Our next panelist is Mrs. Jayashree Periwal. She's the founder chairperson of the Jayashree Periwal group of institutions, which comprise 3 nationally top-ranked primary, secondaries, and 7 highly admired preschools with an aggregate enrollment of over 10,000 students, mentored by over 1,000 students in Jaipur. The group's flagship Jayashree Periwal International School is ranked Rajasthan's #1 international daycare boarding school and #6 in India in the Education World India School rankings. Welcome, Mrs. Periwal. Our next panelist is Dr. Amlan Saha. Dr. Amlan Saha is principal of the Sagar School, Alwar, which is ranked among the country's top 15 co-ed boarding schools and #1 in Rajasthan. He's a very experienced K-12 education leader. He has over 20 years experience in top-ranked schools, including as principal of the Sanskar Valley School, Bhopal, and deputy headmaster of the Assam Valley School, Baripara. Next panelist is Mrs. Pepino Grover. Pepino Grover is principal of the Maharani Kishori Devi Girls School, Bikaner. She's again a very highly qualified and experienced educator with over 25 years experience. She has served as a member of several CBSE inspection teams for school affiliation. Warm welcome to all my panelists. So let me set the context of this debate. As we all know, 2020 was a year like no other. In fact, last month in March, we completed 1 year since government ordered shutdown of all education institutions to check the spread of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused, has been over 12 million infections and 162,000 deaths in India. And now the country is confronted with a second wave of the pandemic. Perhaps the most impacted sector of the pandemic has been education. Pandemic has hugely disrupted the country's education system, especially its K-12 schools. Teaching and learning has moved online. Teachers had to quickly adapt and learn digital technologies to continue learning of children. There have been massive protests last year. I've also seen massive protests by parents over payment of fees. There's been financial distress among private schools, especially budget private schools. To add all this, there have been state government circulars passing reckless government fees deferment orders, in addition to private schools knocking upon doors of high courts and the Supreme Court to challenge government fees deferment circulars. Mr. Goyal, I'd like to come to you first. What, according to you, are the 2 most valuable lessons from the pandemic for Indian education and educators?
Thank you. According to me, the most valuable lesson for Indian education is that we must realize that there may be always a situation where we need to learn disaster management in our school. There may be any circumstances like pandemic, and the government can't help every time to the private schools, as it has not helped private schools at all during this pandemic during 2020. The private schools were just left unattended, except issuing some orders that they can't charge the fee or they have to charge that fee, and there was no support to them. So the most important lesson is that we should learn how to manage our institutions during these kind of situations. The situations may arise time and again, as I foresee that 2021 will not be a normal year. Again, there will be a situation where we may not be, we may be having tough time, because of, as you have rightly said, there will be second wave. We don't know what would be the peak and when it will end. And the another which important lesson which which we must recognize, that parents has become more alert, more cost conscious, and they have learned to get united. I am always talking very frankly and in the interest of the schools, that how to deal with the situation. So this is the most important lesson. Earlier, the parents were not so conscious about many things. Now they have become conscious. They are cost conscious now. They feel that what they can spend, what they should spend, and how they should spend. So this is another second most valuable lesson which has been given by the pandemic. So, and if you like, I can go on for telling some more lessons which we have noticed, or which we must recognize. Another thing which I have said in my initial statement, that there was government plan for every sector during pandemic, but there was no plan for the private schools during pandemic. The government just left it as a matter in between the parent and the school, but under the control of the government. So that was most confusing state. The whole year has passed and nobody is sure that what the parent should pay, what school should get, and what government wants. The entire session has passed. Now 31st March has gone and we have entered the new session, but it is not clear to anybody. At last, we have to approach to the Supreme Court in the month of February, and from where we have to get an order, and which is also interim order. So my humble request, Saurabh is here. My humble request is that whenever these kind of situations are there, the private schools should be taken in confidence before issuing any order. It is the legislative process, it is the administrative process that the stakeholders should be consulted. But there was no consultation in between the private schools and the government. So this is a lesson. Otherwise, there was no need to go to the High Court or Supreme Court. In Odisha, what had happened? The Odisha government did
right, Mr. Koyal.
I will just take half a minute.
Sure.
Odisha government arranged a meeting of the private schools and the parents, and there they signed a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that what school will be charging and what parents will be paying. And that Memorandum of Understanding has been approved by the High Court and now by the Supreme Court. So we could have adopted more practical approach. This is a lesson which should be for the government.
I think perhaps that's the most important lesson, that during times of crisis, there has to be a mutual agreement and consultation of all stakeholders. I think you've raised a very important point. We'll come back to it. Dr. Periwal, I'd like to come to you now. How do you reflect on the last year? How challenging was it? And specifically, I'd like to ask you, what is the lesson in it for educators about the importance of focusing on the socio-emotional well-being of children?
Thank you, Sumaya. When I reflect on this shifting learning using technology, I would say it was a challenge, but also an opportunity to overcome this challenge, preventing a learning crisis from becoming a generational catastrophe. And it requires immediate and urgent action. Online classes were just restricted to the teaching academic subjects, but we went beyond that. And we started to engage children in various activities that they would actually do in a physical school. Enacting the Lion King, celebrating Teachers' Day, doing assemblies, conducting e-elections for the student council, organized science fairs, business plan competitions, ballet workshops, STEM, like there were numerous things that we got children to engage. We had virtual museum tours, field trips, digital libraries. And we at the Jayashree Periwal group left no stone unturned to address potential psychological, those socio-psychological challenges that students can face when they are in isolation, quarantines, contact restrictions, schools were closing, there was physical distancing. Even though the current crisis can bring it with opportunities of personal growth and family cohesion, but the disadvantages outweigh these benefits. To help our children handle fear, anxiety, accompanying these uncertain times. So we had sessions, they were organized by a renowned psychologist, Dr. Zirak Makar, Anju Kish, for students as well as parents. We invited parents also to be a part of this and understand how we can learn to overcome these difficult times. So a new mental health curricula, Mind Matters, was introduced, and it was conducted across all students that deals with issues of anxiety. We gave them an opportunity to connect with scientists, authors, journalists, educators, storytellers, say from Anand Neelakanthan of the Bahubali fame to the cricketer Harbhajan Singh, market guru Prasun Joshi. We call them all for webinars so they could talk to children and they could learn lessons from their experiences. And I must acknowledge efficient teachers who moved towards a robust plan to teach in distance mode, learned new ways of teaching. I want to thank all my teachers for never ceasing to shape a generation of children who will make a difference in the world. So it was learning time for all of us.
Thanks, Dr. Periwal. Thanks for putting that very important perspective of socio-emotional well-being also in the context of this discussion. Dr. Saha, over to you now. What are the lessons for you? Perhaps you could reflect on the important role of teachers during the pandemic and what lessons are there in this for school managements about the need to invest in teacher development? Dr. Saha?
Thank you, Yasmin, for inviting me. I will speak more in the boarding school context. First of all, leaving everything negative or the odds, probably I would consider it as a revival year or a gap year in a boarding school concept. We could revive everything possible in a different way. If you look at the Indian education system, the way it's coming up from now onwards, probably the distance and time, these two barriers have been removed, at least from our mindset that has taken place. Second, as the previous two speakers were talking about, crisis management is no more a protocol, but it's a life skill now for everyone. And from there, I come to the teacher's context, which you are asking. Expressing my gratitude to all the teachers, the way they modified themselves within a short span. And definitely they became tech savvy and they started working towards that. But underneath what has happened, Now the school has started working and my kids are on campus. It's a different challenge for them to come back from the digital world to the normal lessons in the classroom. It's a fact. That has put a different pressure on the school management to make the environment in a more hybrid model to continue, and which has to continue. So what has happened for the teachers, they have become self-made, in my opinion. Okay, their confidence level has grown up to a great extent because they knew jolly well that the parents were watching what is going on. Not every time parent is there, particularly for a boarding school, but during the online lesson, they have gained their confidence. Third, if you look, it was a forced research for them. While they are making the PPTs, and we kept on telling that no more market survey and do pick up whatever, but you prepared your own things. That has given them an in-depth knowledge, and also in terms through research, what has come in the scenario also, the whole education system, maybe NEP was at the right time. It has moved from road to right, I mean the right direction. The teachers were also forced because of the lack of system in many places in terms of examination, where subjective wasn't there. They were forced to think about more of MCQ concept based. So these went hand in hand. And as a result of that, they started making the things more concept oriented while they were teaching. Also, I would say from another viewpoint, and there are many educationalists here, if CBSE or other boards, they had reduced the curriculum, that probably gives a clear signal that if this generation, this particular batch, didn't study anything wrong, nothing is going to go wrong drastically in their life. So some junk can be avoided or can be tackled in a different way. That's my appeal, being in the administration, that if we have done 1 year without those chapters or minimized it, can we move in that direction, and that will reduce the rote learning syllabus load and bring it more in the positive concept-based learning. The other point I must touch here, there has been a sense of innovation which has come within the teacher's mind as well. They are trying to experiment whichever better way we can connect. And if you look from the school viewpoint, I am not comparing teacher A with teacher B, but today, the best teacher could be available to all the students of the same grade because of DigiLearning. That is a huge benefit which has come. And if we can integrate that, even when now it's going on in the school, it's excellent. Barring two things, I must tell, one is the physical handshake during the everyday life, and probably the boys tackling each other in the soccer field. We did everything possible during this 1 year. And as Mr. Periwal was telling about, any competition you talk about, anything, and huge amount of resource persons coming in contact, which wasn't possible, we didn't think about. And the two lessons I'm taking it, maybe all of the boarding schools will be doing, I have made all the parent-teacher meeting, because it's a boarding school, online this year, following the last year's footstep. It's going to be. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Saha. Thank you very much for your insights. Over to you, Mrs. Grover, Pepino Grover. I'd like to ask you, what are the two most valuable lessons of the pandemic for you, Mrs. Grover? You have to unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Yes.
Good evening to everyone. The most important pandemic lesson which
You need to log out from the other system because there are two logins.
yeah, actually
Now we can see you.
Yeah, yeah. Now we can hear you, Mrs. Grover. Please proceed.
okay. No, but then I am so sorry.
There are two logins, ma'am. So one login
Yeah,
need
I
to
know,
logged
I
out.
know.
Okay, should we give you some time? We can come back to you, Mrs.
No,
Grover.
I'll just switch it off. Am I audible now?
Yes, this is better.
Please,
Okay,
please go
I'm so
ahead.
sorry. That was my laptop. The most important thing which I've been hearing everyone, they are expert in their own field, but I would like to talk about the general thing, irrespective of what we have been, the challenges which we have faced. I would like to talk about the scenario in the Bikaner, that it was not only the schools which faced the challenges, it was a challenge for the parents also, it was a challenge for the students also, because the most important thing was that what we have learned is that whether it is time, whether it is life, whether it is situations, whether it is circumstances, nothing was the way it was. Everything changed drastically. So everyone had to adapt to the changes, and anyone who was adaptable was able to survive in a better way, and anyone who was reluctant, who took time, was taken aback. So the most important thing which we have learned is that forward towards the situations, and you have to come out with the solutions rather than cribbing over it. We have been listening about the government did not help us. We have been listening about what other institutions have done in a very better way. But the thing was, if we look at the whole scenario, whether a student is of my school or it belongs to a government school, every child was supposed to be given the equal opportunity, which unfortunately every child did not get. Like if I talk about my own institution, my teachers worked very hard. There was no time limit for the teachers to work, because they had to make themselves not only techno savvy, digital savvy, but they had to prepare themselves to present themselves to the child at home. That was totally a different scenario. Every teacher is very confident in her own premises, but when it comes to be observed and to be judged by the parent who's sitting at home, is totally a different scenario. I think everybody would agree to this part. But then the child who was isolated at home, though they were virtually attached to us, but reality was totally different. So even what I have felt there, that the parents have been contacting us, some of the children, they have gone into depression because of isolation. So that was also a big challenge, that how the children, those who are privileged to get into this virtual world of technology, in some ways they were able to contact each other, they were able to limit their isolation. The isolation was not clearly eradicated, but to some limit it was removed. But the children, those who were not having these technical gadgets with them, the children who belong to the schools where this day meal was the privilege for which they were going to the schools, I think that is the sector which was adversely affected. So, and another thing which I felt, that many of the institutions, because the government had left the private schools on their own, they joined hand. They learned how to help each other and move on. So they had their own meetings, that how should we survive. So this was the biggest lesson, that you have to have your own confidence, you have to have your own resources, you have to have your own managements, and you have to go on. Whether it is pandemic situation, whether it is a happy situation, you have to balance everything and you have to move on and on. Plus,
thank you, Mrs. Grover. I'll come back to you. Mr. Goyal, I'd like to quickly come over to you now and ask you, the 1 year on, the biggest lesson, the biggest results which are coming out of is about the learning loss which children have suffered. And I see that, even among private schools, even among government, there's no real anxiety and that real sense of panic that children have lost almost 1 year of learning. I mean, according to the Azim Premji University report, 92% of children in government schools have forgotten what they learned in last year. So how should we wake up the government to address this challenge, as well as the private sector?
Yeah, It's very important question. We should not talk about the private schools and the government schools. If we talk about the education as a whole, it's a matter of fact. It is the heart of the issue that may it be online education, may it be anything. I know I will accept it that when we were giving online education, children were keeping their videos off. They were just logging in and then going out. And this year, when many IAS officers, IPS officers, ministers, MLAs, educationists, the lecturers, when they have come to schools to admit the children, they have accepted that there is a big learning gap in for their children. And we have to accept it, that in the pandemic year 2020-21, the children has not been able to get the full education or the type of education or the level of education which they were required to. And this learning gap will be affecting them throughout life. I know in my own life, I skipped class 4, and the content which I skipped in class 4, it is still bothering me at the age of 70. Because once a gap is there, and if it is not fulfilled by our extra efforts, then this will remain gap. So my humble submission to the private schools as well as to the government, because this is fact also, that in government schools, teachers were not allowed, teachers were not asked to join the schools till August, September. The students were not having gadgets. And only some Shala Darpan or whatever Diksha, whatever the programs they were able to do, because it's a huge sector. So the government school children had been deprived from the education during this entire pandemic year, which is what 2020, and I fear that the same thing should not happen in 2020-21. So my submission is that the private schools has to do the extra efforts and to prepare some bridging program to bridge the gap of this learning which has taken place in 2020.
Thanks, Mr. Goyal. Dr. Periwal, I'd quickly like to come to you and ask a very important question. With all this fees protests, etc., there's also been a sort of breakdown of trust between parents and school managements. How do you think so? Is this also an important lesson? I mean, do we need to focus on rebuilding that trust and rebuilding that mutual admiration and trust between these two very important stakeholders? Please unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes, we do need to build these bridges. But firstly, I would like to thank the parenting community for reposing their trust in educational institutions. 90% turnout every day. And contrary to the popular belief, I must bring to light that majority of the parents displayed amazing examples of solidarity, unity, and support in school management and the teachers. It saddens me when some members of the society, some who are not even parents, they're hired goons, who create uncalled confrontation with unruly displays outside schools, creating full tamasha. I want them to reflect on what are they trying to teach their children or the society. Is this any kind of model behavior? We must understand that both parents and schools are working towards one cause, children. We have to work in tandem with mutual respect for each other. Our Guru Shishya Parampara is from time immemorial. Eklavya, Drona, Arjun, Krishna. Meaningful conversations and partnerships are important. Connections, communication, and commitment are the key. Children are the priority, change is the reality, and collaboration is the strategy. I promise that children will continue to receive first-class education, albeit in a new way. And we promise to uphold our traditions of maintaining excellence in our standards of imparting education. We will hold hands with parents, and together we will forge ahead not step by step, but leaps and bounds.
Thank you, Dr. Periwal. Dr. Saha, I'd like to come to you now, and a very important question, if you could quickly answer it, is about this entire future, which is going to be the hybrid form of education. What do you think lessons in that for schools? And how do you see it evolving?
I'm very doubtful with the surge in number right now. What is going to happen in near future, and probably the situation will get cleared by April 2022. I don't know what is Mr. Saurabh Swami is thinking from the government side, but for us in the boarding school today, it's 100% attendance. Children have come back up to class 6. If we can protect it, it's a one way of going inside the boarding school. It's a safe environment. But on the other side, I think we should be ready. Crisis management, as I have told, and financial literacy being a part of the life skill and lesson, we should be ready with the hybrid model that any time if it is coming back, we just turn the switch, okay, and then get back. If it is air conditioning during summer, we switch over to heater during winter time. We are ready now with the modules, with the system, and whenever it can be utilized in the best possible manner. That's what I'm telling. Even while on campus, I am making some classes, continuing some classes in the hybrid model. I'm giving a very clear-cut example. Some of my teachers will have to go out for some emergency out of campus. When they're going to come back, I'm putting them in quarantine for the safety of the rest of the campus. And also being on quarantine on campus, they are continuing with the online classes while the students are sitting in their classroom. So this hybrid model we should sustain. In the long run, that will be useful. So there is zero gap. Similarly, if a teacher is going for leave for a couple of days traveling somewhere else, teacher may not be on station, but the teacher will continue his or her classes from his or her hometown. Even we are continuing with that. So the time we are actually gaining out of this thing instead of losing.
Yeah, got it. Mrs. Grover, quickly over to you now, and continuing the thread of the conversations we've been having and our earlier speakers. How do you see the partnerships evolving between schools and parents, and do you see that as now being strengthened to face the uncertainties?
Ma'am, I request to keep at least 2 minutes for me for some points that have been raised in this session. I want
Sure, Mr.
only for this session.
That would be really wonderful.
Yeah, 100% we'd like to have your comments on our discussion. Mrs.
would
Grover,
like
if you
to
could
hear-
quickly.
Sumaya, we would like to hear Saurabh ji. We
Absolutely,
definitely
I have some questions for him. Mrs. Grover,
and
you need to unmute yourself, ma'am, again. Ma'am, unmute yourself. Yes.
I would like to say that like in the beginning, the parents were not even ready to give the gadgets in hands of the students, because the whole scenario changed and the whole ethos and ethics of the life changed. So if everyone was reluctant that what are they going to do with it, whether it will be used in right manner or not. But now, since the whole year has passed, what we can see that even the parents have started understanding that now, because the things are so uncertain, this has become part and parcel of life, and they are also adjusting to the things that the child, if she has to learn, I'm so sorry, I'm using the word she because I have a girls' school, so I'm in a habit of using that. As a student, any child who's a student will have to have the technology in hand if he or she has to continue with education. It's not only about learning the lessons, but entire education system has become dependent on technology. Though the schools have started in a manner that 50% of the students are coming to the school, but remaining 50% still are dependent on the gadgets. Plus, as the fee scenario and all other these things, the parents, they had this thing that when the child is online, that means online is no studies. So no study, no fee. But gradually, this has gone into their mind that this is the way of study for God only knows for how long this is going to be there. And now they have started accepting it, thanks to Supreme Court and the High Court.
Thanks, Mrs. Grover. Yes, Mr. Saraswamy, I'd like to come to you, and perhaps you could directly now address what Mr. Goyal was complaining about, that the government didn't take the private sector into confidence and the most important stakeholders, and you all made some reckless decisions. Perhaps you could address that. And after your comment, we're going to have Mr. Bhavan Shah, CEO of Education, who will take on some questions, many of which have been posted on this platform. Over to you, Mr. Swamy.
So basically 2 points have been raised, which I have serious, first point is that government didn't act as they should have for private school during the point of pandemic. So when this pandemic came, so we were also at the similar level as private school were there. The only point that is left that government didn't act come around only in the part of fees, nothing else. So that fees, let me come straight to that fees point. So we had a few orders in around, I can say, August or September, where we had told that the fees will be deferred. So, and we will be issuing our orders as soon as our regular classes will start. So that was the basic idea, that as soon as the regular classes will start, the fees can be given. But some of the schools, they went to High Court against that order. High Court then told that for a 70% fees of tuition fees that should be taken. We also agreed with that. Many of the schools also agreed with that. But then again, a few schools went to a DB and they told, no, we want 100%. Then also court told us to give us some directions. We replicated the same order as the Honorable High Court gave, that we were also agreeing with 70% is okay, since most of the schools were also agreeing. But then we didn't went to DB, we didn't went to Supreme Court. Then again, the private schools only went to Supreme Court. We didn't told them to go. So that was the thing, that the clarity of the situation from our side was, we made it amply clear that as soon as our school will open, we will give you all the fees. And secondly, the second point was that for the session of 1920, we made that amply clear that all fees has to be paid. That was my first order, in my first order itself. So the problem was from this session itself. So now in that fees wala thing, currently the thing is that, as Damodar sir said, that it is still an interim order and there were no discussions made with the private school. So discussions were made, even there was dharna, even there was, everything was there. But again, the point is that some impatience, definitely impatience was there, because they also had to run their schools. So I understand, because I'm not here being a representative of government, I'm just here trying to understand what all both sides are feeling. So that is okay at their point, that few of the parents, in fact many of the parents, were not paying fees, because they were saying कि online में तो पढ़ाई नहीं हो रहा है, तो फिर किस चीज का फीस देंगे, तो वो चीज था. But plan was definitely there. Second point that was raised, that there for no plan of pandemic for government schools. So there was no education. Even you mentioned Azim Premji report saying. So that I can't agree with, even with a single iota. I mean, you see, whatever we had done in the pandemic, I will be sharing it with you after some time. But the point is that a good point was raised, that hybrid model. So for that hybrid model, we must have a backbone where all of our syllabus is digitized. And one thing here, since most of the schools over here are English medium schools, but ours mostly schools are Hindi medium schools. So in Hindi medium school, we need to have all those videos which are there in Hindi. We need to have all of our syllabus digitized in Hindi. So that was a big challenge that we tackled. And rest I will be sharing. But these 2 points that were clearly raised, that government didn't act and we did for private school as well as for our students. So both of these points are, completely wrong. We acted as we had to do. And there were some points like one more thing that I just wanted to say, our elite panel over here, these are all the big schools, but there are more than 47,000 private schools in Rajasthan. And if I'm not wrong, not more than 200 or 300 schools, not more than that, were able to give online education to their kids. So there was a huge, divide between a top level English medium schools of Rajasthan and 99% of those schools who were running, in villages.
Budget schools.
So if I look from the point of view of these 200 odd schools, that fees should have been paid and everything should have been done, then they might be correct. But if I look from the point of view of all the 99% of schools, and then I see the parents' point of view, that if they are not even teaching us online, then why should the fees be paid? Then the shift comes. So if we see some 75 lakh of students are there, and in the top 200 schools, around 3 to 4 lakh students will be there. So more than 71, 72 lakh of students, I'm talking only about private schools, were not able to get even online education at that point of time. They were simply closed. So if they were simply closed, then how could we convey to every parent, how could we tell them that you have to pay the fees, that 200% of fees? So that was, a synergy was not there between exact what should be done for all those high profile private schools, for the normal private schools, and those schools which were not paying the fees. So that created us a bit of more confusion. Even that Odisha thing that we were telling, that also the MOU that is being done, that is only for the schools that are teaching online education, that not all those schools which are not doing online education. So that thing came over here. So that is my point.
Thank you, sir. We'll come back to you. Bhavin, I'd like to call Bhavin Shah, CEO of Education World. Bhavin, can you join us now, please?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, Bhavin.
Bhavin, if you can just proceed with I think we've got a few questions.
Yeah, but Sumya, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one comment and pass on the question, because we would love Mr. Saurabh to continue with his presentation. So I'm just going to make a comment and I'll pass on the question, because we are Facebook Live, there are 1,000+ viewers. I've got tons of parents, in fact, who have been asking questions, which I'm going to distribute over to you guys when you take forward the panel. I just want to make a comment on the valuable lesson and want to take side now of student and institutions. And you guys are managing the managements because they are all here. So students and institutions need to acknowledge the value of living, innovating, and working with their own specific context, because we have seen so many contexts differ from places to places, scenarios to scenario, and transfer this knowledge across all domains. So this is very important, where the three major things which are, it's very important to value the living, innovating, and working to the context. This is, I think so, which I understand from all the panelists, is a very good lesson that we have learned, and a very valuable input that pandemic has taught us. So with that thought, I want to pass, I'll just post some questions to you, Sumya, which you can take it afterwards, because I think everyone is very eager to wait to hear Mr. Saurabh and his presentation. Yeah. So thank you very much, and over to you and Mr. Saurabh for the next presentation.
Thanks, Bhavin. Thank you to all my wonderful panelists. I think we had a great discussion. We're going to keep the questions coming through the discussion, but I'd like to now call upon Mr. Saurabh Swami. Mr. Swami, I'd like to just perhaps in your presentation you could just address. I just had one point to make after listening to what you had to say. That in Education World we believe that the matter of fees is best decided between school managements and their parent bodies. We believe that there's no business of governments in sending out fee circulars and reduction circulars. because when an admission is taken, it's a private contract between a school and a parent. The government is not involved. So perhaps in your presentation somewhere, or when you take up questions, you could address this point of view of ours.
No,
So let me, yes.
I will just say
Let
only
me
one
just
thing.
introduce